Analysis of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a form of modern digital money created as an experimental alternative to government-controlled fiat currencies. It was created in 2009 and runs on an open-source public blockchain that is accessible by anyone in the world. Citizens in countries like the Ukraine, Syria, Venezuela, Nigeria, and Turkey have been using Bitcoin as a real money to store value and exchange for goods and services while their own country's fiat currencies or financial systems undergo various crises. Overall, Bitcoin was created to be a accessible, robust monetary and financial system for anyone who has problems with their own country's centralized fiat currencies or systems. Before we get into the analysis of Bitcoin, we should make one clarification. The name Bitcoin doesn't just describe the Bitcoin currency, but also refers to the underlying Bitcoin network, which functions as a decentralized payments network, security protocol, and general ledger for all Bitcoin payments. This makes Bitcoin not just a new form of money, but also as a totally new and independent financial system in its own right. In this sense, judging Bitcoin as if it were only money would be akin to judging a book by its cover. With that said, in this presentation, we'll be looking at Bitcoin the money, separate from Bitcoin the network, to see what characteristics Bitcoin has as a completely engineered currency. Now let's see how Bitcoin stacks up relative to the ideal characteristics of money. Money has three functions: a store of value, a unit of account, and medium of exchange. The degree to which a money can perform these functions depends on several individual characteristics of that money. The ideal characteristics of money include portable, durable, scarce, but not too scarce, difficult to counterfeit with a stable supply, divisible, standardized, easy to identify, and has some kind of perceived value. In my analysis, I will rate Bitcoin on a 1 to 10 scale for each of these characteristics. The first characteristic is portable. Bitcoin is highly portable. In an extreme case, you could simply memorize a 12-word phrase and transport billions of dollars of value in your own head, with absolutely no wait time, no bank approval, and no other red tape. And any smartphone Bitcoin wallet can also transport infinite value in the wallet application. So for portability, Bitcoin gets a 10 out of 10. Durability. The average lifespan of paper money is 7.8 years, because like any physical money, it can get worn and tattered with use. Bitcoin is digital. It can't really be worn away. It deserves a 10 out of 10. Scarcity. Bitcoin's current new coin emission rate is 1.7% every year, or 1.76% new emission every year. This amount is set to halve every 4 years indefinitely, with an ultimate supply being of 21 million Bitcoins, or 2.1 times 10 to the 15 Satoshis, the subunit of Bitcoin. This means that even if Bitcoin is worth $1 million per coin, then one Satoshi would be worth exactly 1 penny. Even though having a set, predictable supply was a purposeful feature by the creators, when economic growth is really high in the economy, Bitcoin may become very deflationary as demand for Bitcoin outpaces supply. So in Bitcoin's case, is the fixed supply a detriment or is it a feature? Really kind of depends on who you ask, but I'm going to give scarcity a rank of 6 out of 10. Difficult to counterfeit. Bitcoin is just impossible to counterfeit. Any transaction that breaks the rules of the network will not be processed, and any node on the network that is out of consensus with more than 50% of the other nodes, as far as account values, transaction sizes, etc. go, they'll be kicked off the network. Bitcoin has so many layers of verification and redundancy that it's impossible to counterfeit. So I have to give it a 10 out of 10. Divisibility. One Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million Satoshis. This means micropayments can be made in the fractions of a penny. Divisibility gets a 10 out of 10. Standardized. One Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin. No Bitcoin is worth any more than any other Bitcoin. No Bitcoin has like a distinguishing characteristic, like a timestamp or a serial number, so it can't really be made dirty in that sense. So Bitcoin is unquestionably standardized, and I've got to give it a 10 out of 10. Easy to identify. It's impossible to counterfeit, deface, or obscure Bitcoin. The network verifies every transaction for you automatically. So once again, Bitcoin gets a 10 out of 10 on identification. Perceived value. To some, Bitcoin cannot be trusted because no government controls it. To others, Bitcoin is the only non-commodity financial instrument that really can be trusted because their own government and currency are in some kind of crisis. Bitcoin's perceived value depends on how much each individual person trusts their government's currency. So I don't really know how to rank this one, but I guess it just depends on how bad that individual who's making the judgment of value, how bad their country's monetary and financial system actually is. So overall, Would Bitcoin objectively beat paper fiat? I think so in almost every category. However, a digital dollar would receive probably a 10 out of 10 in several categories that a paper dollar wouldn't. The two categories that Bitcoin didn't receive a perfect score in, scarcity and perceived value, were specifically designed as features of Bitcoin to differentiate it from any government-controlled digital fiat that may be implemented in the future. These features are what make Bitcoin different from transferring and saving digital dollars on Venmo, for example. So after doing this analysis, I can say that at a bare minimum, Bitcoin is a decent form of money. But whether it's better than government fiat currency, especially like digital government fiat currency, that really just depends completely on each individual user's own situation.